Well, hey folks, it's your old pal, King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. I made it through the final 3 episodes of Season 1 of House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon, House of the Dragon, House of the Dragon.
And so here is the final House of the Dragon review for Season 1. Now, these last 3 episodes actually all run up against each other. There's no time gaps in between them that I can detect. Episodes 9 and 10 kind of run parallel to each other somewhat, and whereas episode 8 is teeing up what happens in the final 2 episodes, which is King Viserys finally passes away. It's sad. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't a great king, but there's certainly been worse Targaryens and are worse Targaryens. And I guess that's the main reason why I'm going to have to go ahead and start watching Season 2, although I might take a week off to kind of simulate the season break, even though all these episodes are already out and available for viewing. Man, it really took a whole season to build up to not even quite getting to the point where you thought the season was going to be going based on what the first episode's setup was, which was, obviously there's going to be a rift between these 2 branches of Viserys' family, and it's going to come to a head when he dies. There's a conflict over who gets to be the king and or queen, and then we have a Targaryen civil war. We got all the way up through all of that, up to what it's probably going to be the inciting incident to justify that said family civil war, without actually getting to the family civil war. It's like, when you're watching the first episode of the original Game of Thrones, you can obviously, just by the title of the show and by a few things, there's obviously going to be some sort of conflict of secession and who's going to end up getting to be king and yada, yada, yada. But you shouldn't be able to peg from the first episode that the season's going to end with Ned Stark being beheaded, and you spend the entire time anticipating Ned Stark getting beheaded, and then they do it in the very tail end of the last episode. Well, that's basically what House of the Dragon has done here. The very obvious outcome of all these plot lines, saved for the very, very end, and technically I would say not even really, because that's not the real official outbreak of war. It's just Prince Aemond killing Prince Harry Potter and his tiny dragon. The end. I look forward to Aemond dying, hopefully at the hands of Daemon, since they basically kind of seem to be following the same genetic template, let's say. Just one with fewer eyes than the other. Of the 3 Game of Thrones shows, I probably like it the least. Not knowing how it's going to end, specifically for the show, as opposed to kind of having a general idea of where all this is going, since this is a prequel, and so we know what the results ultimately will be. But not knowing specifically how House of the Dragon will end, I can't quite fully judge it against Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones was great up to the point where it stopped being great. This show could potentially, have a nice up curve and get better as it goes along. I don't know how much more it can sustain big gaps in time without having to introduce a completely new cast of characters at some point, if they're still leapfrogging 5 to 10 years in between episodes. It's interesting which actors have been replaced already with new actors playing their characters, and which actors have been playing this character all the way from the beginning of the season, regardless of their depicted age at the beginning of said season. So I just look forward to them stalling on actually showing anything in the Civil War, episode after episode after episode. Once again, we'll see how wrong I am in a week when I get back to this. But if you notice here, whereas I do have kind of an overall probably more negative opinion of the show than a positive opinion of the show, I've given it a fair day in court. In my earlier reviews of this, I've outlined what my biases were about it going in, and I've done my best to try to remain open-minded to it, and have cited the specific thing about it that I don't like, which is that the repetitive nature of all these family lineage, dynastic politics kind of storyline that it seems to just kind of just hang on more than anything else. If you notice, though, my complaints about it aren't about anything that's woke about it. I haven't been saying,
but why is that guy black? Or Why is that guy a woman? Or why is that woman black? Why is that guy gay? Why is that black guy gay?
And so on and so forth. Those things are not really a concern, especially considering the reality that was already set up for what this universe is like in Game of Thrones, which included women and black people and gays. So I'm sure if this show came out right now, there'd be a ton of YouTubers out there telling you this is the worst thing that's ever happened to them. It's like a Holocaust on Groypers or something like that. As we've been seeing with a lot of YouTube critics lately in regards to the newer Star Trek series, Starfleet Academy, and the way they're reacting to the news that Skydance Paramount has bought the Warner Brothers Warner Media Group, which includes a whole host of things beyond just CNN, which was the main reason why they wanted to buy this block of cable channels. But they're also going to be getting control of HBO and a bunch of other stuff, and all these guys are all like, this is great. They're trying really hard to get Starfleet Academy canceled, despite the fact that they're not provable as being Star Trek fans at all. Casually watching a few episodes of TNG when it was on the air back when you were 13 years old, over 30 years ago, isn't really the same as getting to call yourself a Trekkie. Too many people will casually label themselves as fans of something when they're not at all actually a fan. They're just someone who likes it. There's a difference between someone who likes something and someone who's a fan of something. They're not really serving as honest critics, because they go into this show and so many other shows looking for things to not like about it, so that they can then turn around and report that back to their audiences as proof that this show is the worst thing ever. Basically, what a lot of these right-wing YouTube entertainment critics are, is they're basically like a wannabe APAC. They're out just trying to influence a corporation to make decisions in a culture war battle. They'll pretend to like these shows, and they'll present themselves as if they're fans of these shows, and yet don't seem to actually really know much about them, or the things that they complain about don't really make sense in lieu of the large catalog of Star Trek that became before modern Star Trek. And this carries over to other things besides Star Trek: Marvel Comics, DC Comics, other science fiction shows, Harry Potter. These people who will cite bad writing as a problem, and yet actually very seldom actually specifically label what exactly it is that makes it bad writing beyond just some vague vibe that they don't like it. But judging from their talking points, the characters they hammer on, and the people they choose from these shows to put in their thumbnails, they do seem to have quite an issue with women, black people, and gays. So, a coincidence? No doubt. These are all trustworthy people who are making money off of super chats after all, so I guess make with that as you will. But as I said, I've tried to at least try to set a minor example with these House of the Dragon reviews. Like I said, I could come in leading off with my biases for and against the show, try to have an open mind about it because of the fact that Knight of the Seven Kingdoms so impressed me. And I'm not just dismissing things I don't like about it outright and pulling the plug on the whole thing and then acting like,
oh, HBO has done something to me. They've insulted the size of my fanhood, and...
No, there's nothing like that. So stick around for more episodes of House of the Dragon review.
House of the Dragon, House of the Dragon, House of the Dragon.
If there's any other shows of the fantasy or science fiction genre that you'd like my opinion on or would like a review of, leave a comment below and tell me about it. Maybe you might talk me into it, maybe you won't. There's no guarantees here. It's not like you're paying me. I don't have a Patreon where people can bribe me to watch movies or anything like that. But if you make a good case for it, I might consider it. At least put out one video for it at the bare minimum. Because like I said, I will at least try to give the show a shot and not just say it's crap out of hand just because I want to score some sort of political points. So that's about it. Be sure to check the link below to buy yourself a book off of DriveThruRPG that I've written. If you're House of the Dragon fans, a couple of recommendations I might make. I have my OSR game, Blood and Gnome. Someone who left a review of it on DriveThruRPG, I liked how they said it's reminded them of the French resistance during World War II, mixed with the Underground Railroad around the time of the American Civil War. It's a completely non-human, post-human setting. I would personally highly recommend you check it out. Or if you're looking for something a bit more of a generic fairy tale, fantasy, western fantasy type setting, using the Total Party System rules, be sure to check out the Fairy Tale Handbook, both of which are available cheap in PDF, or if you want print copies, I'll try to leave links to these below too, or you can look them up by title on Amazon.com. And until next time,
Stay waspinated!